we all doing? Fit and well, I hope. So, this week's Versus video, straight to it. We're looking at the classic Spy Hunter. Now, obviously, going to be a bit of a backstory to this one, which we'll get into shortly. But we're going to be looking at several systems for this. We're going to be doing the usual suspects plus one. So we've got the ZX Spectrum, we've got the Commodore 64, we've got the Amstrad, and we've got the BBC Micro. So, I've looked at the BBC before. My memories of it tended to really relate back to when I was a schoolboy because, hey, it was a choice of computers for UK schools back then. So, in my mindset, it was always a bit of a boring computer because, obviously, it was used for educational purposes, not for gaming. So, be interesting to see how it holds up on this one. As I said, we'll take a look first into a bit of backstory about this game because I think that's quite interesting. So here we go. The story goes that in 1982, George Gomez, who we see in this picture here, was on holiday in Japan. And during this holiday, he had a Sony Walkman playing his great cassette tapes, and the one album he was listening to was the James Bond soundtrack. This gave him great inspiration, and he thought, I know, I'm going to design a James Bond game. As we all know, James Bond is infamous for obviously being a super spy, sexy and getting all the sexy ladies and all, but he also drives some very sexy cars. So this is what old George thought, I'd do a nice car game all based around 007, and this is when the game Spy Hunter started to come into fruition. Now, unfortunately for George, the guys who owned the licenses for James Bond, etc., were not as keen as George was. So unfortunately, they shot it down as a project. It wasn't happening. Although this was a setback, Midway and George continued and produced the Spy Hunter game that we know today. Now, when featuring this game, obviously we can't ignore the fact that there was a certain TV show around at the time. Yes, that classic Knight Rider, starring none other than David Hasselhoff himself. And if we remember, on this TV show itself, there was a truck that would come along, and Knight Rider, or Kit the car, would drive into it and get upgrades, etc. Obviously, Knight Rider was a big influence because in Spy Hunter, of course, to get your upgrades, you have to get into a truck. So we can't really talk about Spy Hunter without looking at Knight Rider. Finally, we've got to make mention or note of the music that was composed here by Henry Mancini. It was originally used for the Peter Gunn TV show, which starred a detective, and featured as also in the film The Blues Brothers. You may have heard it there, and also it was by The Art of Noise, had a song with this amongst others, Dwayne Eddy I believe, and some various dance acts as well throughout the 70s. Now this sort of concludes this brief history of how Spy Hunter came to fruition. This is by no means a exhaustive, accurate history, but I thought one that would be a nice little touch to pay homage to the game itself. Okay, hope you enjoyed that, people. This video we're going to get into now. We're going to look at the arcade version first, followed by the 8-bits, and then we're going to take a little look at the at some console versions. The Nintendo handheld, both the Colour and the Game Boy Advance, and then we're going to take a look at the NES version as well. I'm not rating them though this week. I'll just give you my thoughts on them. They're not in the competition. The main competition is the 8-bit systems, as per usual. Now, a big thank you to Boise, a good friend of mine, who suggested this quite a while ago, which got added to the list. And it is this. He came up with Spy Hunter because he had great memories of it when he used to come to Kent on holiday with his family, and there was a little arcade there he used to go to and play Spy Hunter. So great memories, Boise. Good stuff. As always, we're going to kick things off by looking at the arcade version. Obviously the theme tune that was mentioned in the earlier part of the video runs throughout this one. Basically you're driving along, you're shooting up the enemies, you're knocking them off the ground, etc., knocking them off the road, should I say, and you get the trucks that come along, and as they do, you can sort of steer into them, and you'll get various upgrades. The various upgrades that these trucks would give you would be anything from a oil slick to smoke screens to missiles. Oil slicks used to be a favourite of mine. I used to love throwing them out. There you go, just like that, and watch the enemies skidding. And then you'd see a boathouse. You could drive into it, and very James Bond style, your car would turn into a speedboat, and then you'd end up battling other boats. So that's the arcade version. So we're going to go and take a look at the Amstrad next, and see how that one does in the first of our 8-bit looks. So this is it. This is the Amstrad version. Quite colourful as always, but the one thing I've got to say before we get anywhere else with this is this version had a bug in it, and the bug was this. What used to happen is occasionally on a certain part of the road, if you lost your life, it would bug out to the point of you'd become trapped on that corner of the map, and it just kept repeating and repeating and repeating itself, and you just couldn't do anything, and you just died basically. It was game over. So that was very disappointing. But casting that bug issue aside, it looked okay. I mean, it was colourful, as of most Amstrad games were. You know, the colour palette was pretty good. Obviously, quite a slow game. I mean, it took a while to get in and out the trucks and things, as you can see here. And it weren't bad, but that bug ruined it. So this is the Commodore 64 version, of course making very good use of the SID chip and doing the theme tune very well. This looked good, the music was good, the sound effects were good, and what was nice with this, there was a lot of enemies on the road and things, but some of them, you know, on a negative sense, took an awful lot of hits. You had to give real multiple hits to get rid of them and stuff. One other point as well, if I was playing this with my joystick, I did notice that it sort of oversteered. It was almost as if it's like, best described as, it's like the road was icy, so as soon as you press left, it sort of oversteered, if that makes sense. But all in all, it was a very good effort. And I don't know, I quite enjoyed this one. It was very good, it was very well done. Now the ZX Spectrum version. As you can see, very large sprites on this, and the screen was slightly stretched for the game. But I'll be absolutely honest, I've got really fond memories of this one. I played it a lot. I remember having this on my little rubber-keyed Spectrum, and it was a very enjoyable game. And I have to say, I really like the large sprites on this. I think they look really good, and I think it was a very good job on the Specky. Obviously, no music, very limited sound effects, but one that comes with fond memories for me. So that was the ZX Spectrum version. Did you own any of these that we're looking at? What do your memories? I mean, do share them in the comments. It's always good to hear what other people have to think. Did you like this version? Did you like the Commodore 64? Did you prefer the Amstrad? You know, let me know in the comments as always. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at the BBC Micro. Spy Hunter. Great sampled speech there on the BBC Micro. As I said right at the beginning, I didn't know a lot about this computer in terms of gaming, but I think it did a half decent job here. It looked pretty good, so I was quite impressed with it, and the speech was good, but the keyboard layout was horrific. It made it unplayable, and unfortunately you couldn't really find the keys. And for a bit of fun, as I said right at the beginning, we're going to look at the Nintendo Entertainment System here. Now, you've probably noticed what the issue is with this straight away. Yes, the speed of the thing. I mean, this played ridiculously fast, which made it quite unplayable. But, you know, it's what it was. The follow-up to this was called, I think, it was Super Spy Hunter, and that was brilliant. That was a really, really good NES game. And it had some superb reviews. It's a very well respected game, so I would avoid this one, and I would go for Super Spy Hunter, which is sort of Spy Hunter 2 really on the NES, but overall nice and colourful, not too bad. Okay, here we go, the Game Boy Color. This come packaged with Moon Patrol, so there was the two games in one on this. It was alright, to be absolutely honest. I was expecting something a bit better, but hey, it is what it is, I suppose. Yeah, I wanted it to be a lot better than this, but it just wasn't. Quite a poor showing, really. So, all in all, sorry Game Boy Color, but must do better. Must do better. But to give it a positive, at least it had a go on the soundtrack, you know. So, you know, I'll give you that this time. But I was expecting something a bit better, to be honest. So, hey ho, there you go. And finally, we're going to be taking a look now at this version here, the Game Boy Advanced. Now, I think in terms of sticking to the arcade, this is probably one of the closest to it. As you can see, it comes double packed with Super Sprint on the cartridge, and it was a very good effort, this one. The only thing missing, the obvious thing, was the soundtrack, which I found a bit strange, but hey ho, there you go. But graphically and playability, this one was quite close to the arcade version. So if you want a handheld version of this, get the Game Boy Advance. Avoid the colour, get the Game Boy Advance. But we're not judging these systems, we're only judging the 8-bits. So let's go to it now. Let's go get my verdict. That concludes all the versions. So now time for my my verdict. Again, as always, if you don't like my verdict, don't be hating on the video, but do let me know in the comments, as you always do. And if you haven't already do so, hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much. So, out of the 4 positions, in 4th position, it goes to the Amstrad CPC. Now, it didn't look too bad. It seemed okay to play, you know. But the problem I found with this was the bug. Yes, there's a bug in this game which pretty much gets you trapped. And once you're in that bug and trapped, it's unplayable. So for that reason, I'm sorry Amstrad, 4th position. So, in 3rd position, I give it to the BBC Micro. Now, I was actually really surprised by this, because as I said right at the beginning, I don't have great memories of the BBC Micro, because to me it was just like, you know, an educational tool. But, you know, and at the time, I never really saw it as a gaming machine as such. But this was quite impressive, and I didn't realise how good the sound chip was for its time on the BBC, with the speech and stuff. So, very commendable. But obviously the negatives, which I mentioned, were the keys. They're all over the place. If they'd have bought this out with redefinable keys, would have been a bit higher up than what it is. So it's 3rd to the BBC, but well played, sir. Good stuff. So that leaves us now for 2nd position, and it goes to Commodore 64. Now, I know a lot of you out there are going to be saying, oh, how's he done that, blah, blah, blah. Listen, and I'll explain why. The Commodore 64 version was good, and I really enjoyed the gun music going along with it, you know. It was cool. But maybe I've voted with my heart instead of my head. But it goes to the Sinclair ZX Spectrum, and I have really fond memories of this. I just loved the graphics, alright? I just think they were big, bold, lovely sprites. And I had this on my Specky back in the day, and I can remember sitting around my little rubber keyboard, tapping away at this and playing it, and getting in and out of the trucks and all that sort of stuff for my power-ups. So I have great memories of it. So for me, the Spectrum takes it this week. Maybe I am thinking with my heart and not my head, but hey, my memories are too fond, so Specky gets it. Well done, Spectrum. And finally, we took a quick look at the handheld systems from Nintendo and the Nintendo Entertainment System itself. Now, the NES version, as you saw, was very nice. It was very good. Played a bit too fast for me, which made, you know, some you know, in the road layout and all that, quite difficult, especially if you're at top speed. So if they'd have slowed the game down, actually it would have been a better play, I think. And then we looked at the Game Boy Color. Looked alright, weren't bad, nothing too special, I didn't think. And then the Game Boy Advance. Now the Game Boy Advance to me was probably the better of the 3. Looked really nice, near arcade perfect pretty much. So a great shout there for the Nintendo systems. Well done. So that concludes this Versus video. Thank you very much for watching, doing everything you do. And remember, any suggestions, let me have them in the comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree with me? Tell me why. Let me know in the comments. As always, thank you for watching. You're brilliant. I'm OGDuffy. I'm out. If you watch the video and you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe for more great videos. Thanks for watching.